Hello everyone, my name is ZComicK, or as I am on ESO, Marquee Captain, and today I will be showing you a 2100 Ottoman boom. Ottomans are probably one of my favorite civs to play with at the moment, and they're really fun to fight with, but the first thing you need to do when learning any civ and treaty is learn how to boom with them. Yes, the first thing you need to do is learn how to boom with them, which admittedly isn't as much fun, but is an essential part to being a good treaty player. But of course, booming isn't everything. You can boom poorly and still win games through being a skilled fighter, but if you can make your economy better, then there's no reason why you shouldn't do so. But before all of this, I'd like to talk about my deck choice with Ottoman. Now, Ottoman don't get that many cards outside of their economic upgrades and their military upgrades. You only get a few support cards, and most of them aren't too great. So here are my decks. My first one is for Andes, and my second one is for Deccan, and as you can see, the only difference is the natives card. Really, that's all you should have as Ottoman, your natives deck and your non-natives deck. Your economic upgrade cards: capitalism, eco-theory, refrigeration, royal mint, factory, double cow, sustainable agriculture, plantation. That's it for that. And then really your 5 military upgrades, and then other mandatory cards: your training speed, battlefield construction, advanced arsenal, and cheap janissaries. But other than that, what separates my deck from other people's decks are the support cards I choose, and right now I'll discuss why I choose them. First one, 300 infinite wood. Even though you have the wood trade, which will net you about 45k wood, at least when I send it during my boom, maybe a little less if you're not using natives. It's good to have an infinite card in any deck you choose with any civilization in treaty, because after all your cards are sent, you're just going to be stacking up shipments. So if you have 18 shipments by the end of the game that you never got to send, it's better that you have an infinite card, so you can get 18 times 300, that's 5,400 free wood. That's really good. That's especially with Ottoman, because some other people like to send 300 coin in lieu of 300 wood. I don't agree with that, because as Ottoman, your factories should not be on wood. They should be on coin, or they should be on food. And if they aren't, then you're probably going to be draining those resources, which are less important than wood. So while your factories are on food or gold, you can be sending your 300 infinite wood, and you can be getting free wood while your economy is focused on the other resources, which actually benefit your military. The other cards I have in my deck are the extra towers card, which is really, really helpful with Ottoman, because with Ottoman, your anti-cavalry isn't that great. Cav archers, and really Huss to match other Huss, and janissaries, which aren't that great either. So you have Flamenca and Huss, and sometimes janissaries. Those take a long time to train. And your main unit are obus, so your opponent's going to be making a lot of cavalry if he isn't that smart. So having towers at the back of your forward base is really helpful, because it messes with your opponent's ability to push you if you can get them all up, and it also messes with cavalry pathing. So if you're getting like rushed by a couple hussars at the flank, you can just pull your obus back and the towers will do the work for you. I mean, if you think of how cost effective a tower is, it does 90 damage to a cavalry unit with splash. That's about as good as a dragoon, and they fire faster. And if you can get a lot of them up, then they just do exponentially more. The other card I have is improved buildings in conjunction with battlefield construction. That's really, really a deadly combo. And your extra towers. It just makes your forward base really, really solid. And if you can get something like Portuguese team walls, then your buildings just can tank so much mortar damage. And it really just makes you pretty hard to shake from your position on the map. Other cards that I don't choose with Ottoman that are good support cards are Advanced Hot Air Balloon, the Explorer card, Irregulars, 6 Grenadiers, the Church card, Pioneers. I think that's it. There's Stonemasons too. All of these, they don't have that great of a use, or like in terms of card space, Age 2 is stacked, so I can't use Silk Road. Although that's like all of these cards are kind of situational. I don't use Cav Archers, I don't use Grenadiers, I don't even upgrade them, so I don't use those cards. The Church card you need to send before the boom, otherwise it's useless. It's just helping your Starn Army, helping you get the momentum early in the battle, which can be useful sometimes, but in the longer games, just the benefit isn't there. Stonemasons, again, Age 2, so can't use that. I'd rather use more towers. And with Silk Road, that might be useful with like an Indian or an Aztec ally, but other than that, it's not great. Maybe if you take like 5 trade posts onto Khan, it might pay off. But really, that's it. Those are my 2 decks that I use. This one being used pretty much all the time. And that's it. And I will be showing you the boom now. And we're back. First action should be to send a couple of your starting villagers into your town center to go to your mine or nearest trees. Reason for this, you want to be able to get hunting dogs as fast as possible, and you don't need that many fills on starting crates with Ottoman, because you don't need to queue the first villager, because one of Ottoman's trademarks is that they get villagers for free. So it's not that important to have many settlers on your starting crates with them, and as such, you should send them to start gathering resources as soon as possible. Now, some people don't do what I do. They don't get they go for a straight age up, just all villagers on food until you have enough to go to the colonial age. I don't do that. I like to get hunting dogs first, and you can see that I'm distributing so that I get my hunting dogs on time. As soon as you get your mosque up, you're going to want to get the faster settler training time tech. You'll always have enough wood from your starting crates to get that and a house and a market, but you won't have enough to get hunting dogs or other stuff. And so now that I have hunting dogs being researched, I can just send all my villagers to food and then age up, and then I'll distribute to age 2 fortress as soon as possible, and from there we can build more TCs, and our villagers will be spawning at the highest rate possible. First card will be Capitalism. Ottoman don't get that many eco cards, so Capitalism is a good starting card. Allows you to have a few fewer settlers on coin than you would need to otherwise. And in Fortress Age, when all of your villagers are on wood, it'll allow you to get Galata Tower District, the villager cap rate up tech, I don't know what to call it, without putting any villagers on gold, which is really, really helpful. Now here I find a 55 coin treasure. Little treasures like that, in my opinion, are really good, especially if you're like Germany and you start with 2 wood crates and you find it right off spawn. It's really helpful. You don't have to waste any Vil seconds walking to mines. It's just really good. But you can see I already have hunting dogs, so it's not as big of a help, but it is a help nonetheless. Here I spot some cows, llamas, not cows, and I delete them. That would improve my boom a little too much. It wouldn't make it as realistic. So it's just best not for me to not use them. Now here you're going to want to keep 6 villagers on food and send 4. Usually you'll age up with 10 villagers, so you want to have 6 on food, send 4 to wood, and get placer mines, and then send the 4 that were on wood to coin, and wait to age. You can see I'm at my market just slamming on the placer mines. I want to get it out as soon as possible so I can send my villagers to coin as soon as possible. Ottomans only really need 3 herds to boom properly. As you can see, they really don't use any food to make villagers, which just kind of makes up for their slow spawning settler time. I think they take maybe 30 seconds to spawn. More than that, actually. Maybe 40 seconds. While a regular villager takes 25 seconds, if I recall correctly. Age up 400 wood, if I didn't mention that, or you didn't see it on screen. And you'll want to collect that and get the Age 2 hunting upgrade and the Mosque Church Tech for villager train speed.
Tamam olur. Evet. Doğru. Satıcı.
Evet, avcı. Avcı. Selam, avcı, 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 avcı.
Evet. Alıcı. Alıcı.
Now I've started to herd early. The reason for this, well, there isn't really a reason. You should be herding with every civ, but especially with Ottoman you want your herds to be close to your town center because you don't want to build them too far forward because when you're in an Imperial at about 70 villager population, all of your villagers are going to be going to mills, so you want your town centers spawning your villagers as close to your mills as possible so that your villagers don't have to walk as far to get to them. Now, with most civilizations it's alright because you'll be spawning your villagers closer to natural resources longer, but with Ottoman you don't need to be on trees for that long. So it's best that they are as close to your town center as possible. Not right next to them. You want them to be a little bit forward, a little bit closer to the mines you'll need to boom, and maybe your herds if they aren't directly at your town center, but not too far forward. So you need to get a mix of both.
Evet. Evet.
At about 15 villagers, you'll be able to age up to the Fortress Age, and you should age up with 400 wood. And once you get a 250 coin for the log flume upgrade for your wood cutting, you'll switch all of your villagers off of coin, and all of your villagers off of food except for however many decaying guanacos there are on the floor. You want to have at least one on each food source so that they just aren't decaying needlessly.
Evet. Oduncu.
Oduncu. Selam. Oduncu. Evet. Avcı. Doğru avcı. Hazır. Selam. Hadi bakalım. Oduncu. Oduncu. Avcı. Avcı. Hazır.
Evet.
In the transition to Fortress Age, build one town center. I mean, not one town center, one house. And the first card you'll want to send will be Refrigeration, then Royal Mint. Then you'll build your two town centers and get the wood for Amalgamation and the 600 wood Church Tech for Vil train speed.
Hazır. Avcı. Tamam. Avcı.
Hazır. Emrin? Tamam olur. Avcı. Avcı. Avcı.
Evet. Emrin. Evet.
You age up quickly,
Evet doğru.
but
Emrin.
every man has his own way of
Hadi
eating
bakalım.
yogurt.
Doğru. Avcı. Hazır. Tamam. Olur. Emrin.
Hazır. Tamam olur.
If you chose the Age Up Fast Politician, you wouldn't be able to have built your TC on time. So really there isn't much reason to be aging up fast when you could get 400 free wood and build your town center on time.
Evet.
The whole point of aging to Fortress early is, at least in Treaty, to be able to build town centers as soon as possible, which will increase your villager production rate, which will net you more resources, just basic booming info, improve your boom.
Hazır. Doğru. Oduncu.
Emrin. Doğru. Evet.
I buy Amalgamation first. I used to not. I used to buy the Church Tech first, but a couple seconds in Vil training time from two town centers isn't as valuable as having your coin gather rate upgraded as soon as you're distributing your villagers to go on that resource. It's all pretty minuscule, but that's just the way I do it. Also, capitalism right now, as you can see, will have produced enough to get you the Galata Tower districts, the settler cap rate upgrade. Still don't know what to call it.
Hazır. Satıcı.
So as I'm about to hit 600 wood, I'm starting to take my villagers off of wood because I no longer need it. And right there, 600 wood on the dot, no time wasted.
Evet. Avcı. Avcı. Emrin. Avcı. Tamam. Olur. Avcı.
Avcı.
Evet.
Emrin? Evet. Doğru. Tamam olur. Hazır. Evet. Avcı. Emrin? Hazır. Haydi bakalım. Avcı. Emrin? Doğru. Tamam olur. Evet. Haydi bakalım. Evet. Doğru. Tamam olur. Haydi bakalım. Avcı. 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 Evet. Doğru.
Right here I have a few too many on gold, so I switched some off of a coin mine to food.
Evet.
You want to be able to hit your distribution as
Emrin. Avcı.
well as you possibly can.
Evet. Doğru.
You don't want to be wasting, like, if you mess up your distribution, then you're just wasting villager seconds and hurting your age time, which will hurt your imperial age time, which in the end will mean that you can't get the imperial capital upgrades as fast as possible, which is just a big negative thing. Will have just a big negative impact on your boom. At about 30 villagers, you're going to want to switch all of your town centers to wood so that you can get the other age cap, the other settler cap upgrade.
Selam. Tamam. Hadi bakalım. Satıcı. Evet. Doğru. Tamam. Satıcı. Hadi. Tamam. Olur. Satıcı.
Satıcı. Evet. Selam avcı. Evet avcı. Hazır. Haydi, tamam haydi bakalım. Haydi evet. O tamam olur. Avcı. 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 Haydi tamam avcı.
Evet. Hadi tamam tamam. Hadi evet evet. Avcı. Avcı avcı.
Emrin avcı. Avcı.
Emrin. Emrin. Emrin.
What flares up
First
fast
card in
is
Industrial Age will be your factory. And you'll have a little bit of idle time in terms of shipments. You won't be able to send your second factory as soon as possible, but that's okay. And you can see that I'm about to hit 400 wood, and that'll take all of my villagers off of wood and send them to start gathering other resources so I can get to Imperial.
Evet. Satıcı.
But you'll want to gather an
Satıcı.
extra 100
Hazır.
wood so that you can get another house.
Emrin haydi bakalım.
It really hurts your boom if you get housed with Ottoman because their villagers train just so slowly.
Selam. Oduncu.
Evet.
Hazır. Tamam.
Here I start bringing in a fourth herd. It's not necessary, but I'd rather have it. It's always nice to have extra herds.
Oduncu.
It never really hurts your boom. But keep in mind that you don't want to send all your you don't want to keep all your food gathering villagers on extra herds. You want to still distribute when you're aging up to Imperial so that you can get all the Imperial upgrades.
Avcı.
Like if you keep too many on food, you might not have enough coin to build your capital and get the upgrades from there. So I've made that mistake a couple of times. You don't want to keep all your food settlers on food for too long, even if you have extra herds. You can easily just get those later.
Hazır.
Kind of the only time having a faster gathering resource can hurt you.
Evet. Yapı ustası. Selam. Yapı
As you're aging to Imperial, get a circular saw and start have your town centers spawn villagers to trees.
Evet.
Finish off the all your mines that you have,
Selam. Satıcı.
all your hunts.
Selam.
Just make sure that you have at least 1,000 coin and 1,000 food as soon as you're an Imperial,
Emrin.
Hazır.
and 400 wood,
Ay, evet. Evet. Selam. Evet.
because that's all you need to get
Avcı. Tamam olur. Avcı.
the capital and the capital upgrade for wood cutting as soon as possible.
Hazır. Satıcı. Avcı.
If you don't have either of those and your age time is faster, then it really didn't matter that you aged any faster, because you weren't able to up your gathering rate, which is the entire point of aging,
Oduncu.
so that your villagers can start gathering resources faster.
Evet. Satıcı. Oduncu. Selam. Satıcı. Oduncu. Hazır. Tamam. Olur.
Build your capital ASAP and send a couple villagers to your coin crates.
Yapı usta. Oduncu.
Emre. Haydi.
The
Tamam olur.
faster you gather your coin crates, the sooner you can get mercantilism, and the sooner you can get your cow cards out, and the sooner you can start eating your cows and making more cows to eat.
Yapı ustası. Yapı ustası. Oduncu.
So it's important to get that upgrade as soon as possible.
Emrin.
Tamam olur. Avcı. Emre hazır.
Hazır. Tamam. Olur. Doğru. Tamam. Avcı.
Evet, avcı. Avcı. Oduncu. Emrin.
Oduncu.
With Ottomans, I like to maximize my wood trades, so I don't buy the capital upgrades. I mean, not the capital upgrades, the plantation upgrades right away. I don't buy the market villager upgrades. I don't buy the line of sight upgrades from the church. I don't buy the arsenal upgrades like range caracol, the ones that cost food. You want to have as much food as possible.
Hazır. Evet, doğru.
Start building your pens and a couple mills
Oduncu.
and upgrade those as soon as they're built.
Oduncu. Emrin. Evet. Tamam oduncu.
Evet. Hazır. Oduncu.
Ha, evet. Tamam oduncu.
Emri olur. Evet. Doğru. Yapı ustası.
Haydi. Tamam olur. Haydi oduncu.
You want to gather just enough wood to build all of your mills, all of your houses,
Hazır.
and an arsenal,
Yapı ustası.
and that's about it.
Yapı ustası.
You don't want to be gathering any more wood than you have to. You want to be on mills as soon as possible.
Yapı ustası. Oduncu.
Tam doğru. Evet. Oduncu.
Emrin.
I set my houses on control group 1 for the first part of the boom, and then once my pens are built, I set those to control group 1.
Oduncu. Tamam. Hadi bakalım.
And my explorer is on control group 2. So I can check in on him whenever I want, but on a map like 1v1 Andes where there aren't that many treasures, it's not as helpful.
Selam. Yapı ustası. Evet. Hazır. Yapı ustası. Emrin yapı ustası. Selam.
Evet. Çiftçi.
So now that I have all my mills built, I'm going to start taking all of my villagers off of wood and putting them onto mills.
Doğru. Çiftçi.
Evet. Tamam olur. Çiftçi. Selam.
Build one barracks and
Yapı ustası.
build one barracks so that
Avcı.
as soon as you're done sending the wood trade, you can start queuing. You can queue up a janissary to train the rest of your forward base. Also build one plantation, so as soon as the wood trade is sent, you can start upgrading that,
Çiftçi.
so you can start sending your villagers onto plantations
Yapı ustası.
faster.
Yapı ustası. Çiftçi.
Here I'm having trouble spotting where I need to put my cow to fatten him on the pen. They both said 10, and there was open space on the end of the other one. I don't know. That confused me for a bit.
Evet. Çiftçi. Çiftçi.
Evet çiftçi. Çiftçi. Çiftçi.
Evet.
Factories should also be on food if I haven't already mentioned. Keep them on other resources, like, say, gold if you're playing on Orinoco. Keep them on that resource if you need them to age. But otherwise, they should always be on food until your wood trade is sent. Then you should switch them to coin.
Selam.
Now I have a little bit of excess wood, so I start building some more plantations.
Evet, emrin. Hazır.
Emrin.
Emrin çiftçi.
Evet. Çiftçi.
Evet. Emrin doğru. Tamam. Doğru. Hadi, tamam. Hadi, evet. Tamam. Olur. Hadi doğru. Hadi. Evet. Hadi bakalım. Avcı. Doğru. Avcı.
Selam. Hazır. Avcı. Çiftçi.
Here I'm just checking on how fattened my cows are.
Emrin. Doğru. Avcı.
Evet. Avcı. Tamam. Avcı.
It's always good to do that, so you know when to check back at your pens. So you can start eating them as soon as possible and retraining.
Evet. Çiftçi.
Evet. Zırh. Doğru. Tamam. Olur. Evet. Emrin.
As soon as they're fattened, shift click your one villager to each cow and shift click them back to the mill. So as soon as they're done gathering the resources from the cow, they go straight back to your mills.
Evet.
During the boom, there's really no excuse as to why you wouldn't do this. It's just more efficient. But during the fight, it just takes too much time and it takes your attention away from the battle for far too long. So in the battle, it's best not to do this strategy.
Çiftçi.
Selam. Hadi bak. Çiftçi. Hazır. Çiftçi.
I have a tiny bit of excess wood. So I'm going to start my wall, building the foundations for my walls. Not building yet, because I want to delete my pillars, because that's always more efficient. But, just setting it up a little bit, because I have some extra time. There's no reason why I wouldn't take advantage of it.
Evet. Doğru. Hadi bakalım.
Now, right now I have 43,000 food. At about 27 minutes and 20 seconds, we're going to send the wood trade. This gives you about 75,000 wood, if I recall. Or somewhere around that. If you're playing without natives, should I say,
Selam.
you can trade a little bit earlier because you won't be as wood heavy unless you plan on running around the map a lot,
Çiftçi.
building a lot of
Çiftçi.
buildings that will eventually be destroyed. But with natives, you want to trade a little bit later so you can have more wood, because you don't want your factories to be on wood at all. Really, they should be on coin or food during the fight.
Evet. Emrin. Evet. Selam.
at exactly 27:19 I start to send wood trade so that it'll come out 28 minutes. Also, something important to notice is how I've arranged my mills and plantations. I don't waste any room with them. Especially with Ottoman, who builds so many mills and plantations. They take up a lot of space, so you want to be as concise in your base as possible. You don't want to waste any space. It just makes it harder for you when you do that. The needier you can be, the better. Once wood trade has been sent, you're going to want to... the first action should be to queue up the plantation upgrade. Once the plantations are fully built and upgraded, you're going to send 60 settlers to... Well, you're going to want to build 6 of them and send 10 settlers to each plantation for a distribution of 40 settlers on food and 60 on coin. Factories should also be on coin.
Hazır. Yapı ustası. Yapı ustası.
Now there's a bit of wood in my base, so I'm not going to build my plantations in the trees, and instead I'm going to build destroy a few of my mills so that I can build more plantations without the trees in them. I don't need 10 mills at this part of the boom.
Çiftçi.
I'm also going to start making some more walls.
Hazır. Hadi bakalım. Emrin çiftçi.
Emrin çiftçi.
And at about the time when your plantations are done upgrading, you'll also have another batch of cows ready to eat.
Selam. Haydi bak çiftçi. Hazır. Evet çiftçi.
Hazır. Tamam çiftçi.
Emrin. Haydi bakalım. Evet. Evet. Hazır. Haydi bakalım. Emrin. Evet.
Emrin evet. Hazır. Hadi bakalım çiftçi.
Evet. Tamam çiftçi.
Selam evet çiftçi.
Selam. Doğru. Çiftçi.
Evet tamam çiftçi. Hazır. Hadi bak çiftçi. Doğru çiftçi.
Hazır. Tamam çiftçi. Evet. Hazır. Doğru. Emrin. Tamam olur. Selam.
Emrin.
Here I paused it because
Emrin.
in real life issues, my sister was calling me. She needed help with something. But once that was solved, back to the booming.
Evet. Satıcı.
Selam.
Emrin. Yapı ustası. Hazır. Yapı ustası. Emre. Satıcı. Selam.
Hazır. Yapı ustası.
Hazır. Emrin. Yapı ustası. Evet. Selam. Yapı ustası. Hazır. Evet.
Also, another note, you don't want to build your plantations too close to the black map, the part of the map where you cannot build anything. Reason for this is because your villagers can't traverse in that part of the map, so it just hinders their pathing when on the plantation, which also ends up slowing their gathering rate. So it's best to build them just outside of that. And once battlefield constructions arrives, you're free to start building your FB. I like to build 4 or 5 barracks, 2 stables, and maybe 3 artillery foundations.
Satıcı.
Emrin. Yapı ustası. Emrin. Evet. Emrin. Evet.
That is, at least for part of my base.
Evet. Satıcı.
Emrin.
After treaty, it doesn't really matter where your buildings are placed.
Evet. Çiftçi.
Hazır.
As long as you have like 4 barracks,
Hazır. Doğru. Çiftçi.
a stable at each flank, and a couple different artillery foundations. Maybe 2 for your obus, and then a different one on a separate control group for artillery like culves or mortars.
Evet. Emrin. Hadi bakalım. Hazır. Emrin.
Also start, once you're done
Evet.
deleting pillars off of your walls, you can start sending your
Emrin.
villagers to actually build them. For my start army, I'm gonna have my usual start army with Ottoman is about 8 culves, a mortar, 8 obus, and 48 janissaries, about that. The amount of culverins really depends on what civilization you're playing against. Like if you're playing against Brits or ports, you're definitely gonna want to have 8 culves to start. That way you can kill their rockets, organ guns, mortars, and get some culve momentum. But during the fight, with Ottoman, you just usually don't want to be making that much artillery. Besides mortars, you don't want to be making horse archer culves. You want to use those as sparingly as possible because obus just costs so much population. So it really hurts your
Evet.
composition. Makes you a lot more prone to
Yapı ustası.
cavalry
Yapı
rushes.
ustası. Çiftçi. Emrin. Yapı
But versus civs like Jur, if they aren't starting with heavy cannons in their start army, then you could probably settle for 4 culves, maybe 6, maybe 2. It all depends, really. Depends on what your opponent's making and how well you scouted it.
Çiftçi.
Excuse me. Once you're at 200 of 200 pop, make your Minutemen. Get all your upgrades from your artillery foundries, barracks, stables, and your outpost. Card order after all of your economy cards have been sent is engineering school, then riding school, advanced arsenal, cheap nats, then cheap jans, then all of your other cards. Team cards first if you're playing a team game. So that means your team art card comes first. It's most important to be helping your teammates as soon as possible.
Selam yapı ustası. Yapı ustası. Evet. Yapı ustası. Yapı ustası. Satıcı. Hazır. Ha tamamdır.
Emrin. Evet, tamamdır.
Excuse me again. More cowing.
Hazır. Doğru. Tamam. Olur. Hadi bakalım.
If you're playing Nats, upgrading your Cav Archers to Imperial isn't that necessary. Hominka are just as good, and between Hominka and Huss, you just don't really need Cavalry Archers. You want probably,
Tamam. Çiftçi.
after the start battle, it's good to have about 25 to 30 Obus in your composition,
Çiftçi.
and
Tamam. Çiftçi Emrin.
the rest in Jans, Huss, and Wominka. I mean, there isn't pop space to be using Cav Archers. So I really rarely upgrade them unless I'm not playing in Nats, in which they're pretty much required.
Evet, evet. Çiftçi. Emrin. Doğru. Çiftçi. Evet, tamam. Çiftçi.
Evet, hadi bakalım. Çiftçi.
I also don't upgrade Grenadiers. That's another viable card. It's a semi-viable card. The Infinite 6 Grenadiers, again, I don't use them. They're really outclassed by Obus guns. They don't have really any place in your composition. I mean, unless you're trying to do something like really silly, like you just don't care about the win. Maybe Cav Archer Grenadier might be fun, but for serious gameplay, I don't recommend them. And here I'm just setting up my start army. Minutemen should be in the front because they just take a free volley of fire from the enemy's army. They're really cost effective. I mean, think about how much your units can fire at the enemy in the time it takes them to fire at your Minutemen. While the Minutemen might not do that much damage themselves, they definitely sponge a lot for you.
Hazır. Tamamdır.
What with how much overkill they get. 1 HP. It's pretty funny.
Evet, doğru. Hadi bakalım. Hazır.
Then I put my Jans in front for my Obus and my Kulves.
Evet, tamam. Hadi bakalım. Doğru.
And I leave about 7 Jans in the back so I can build my FB.
Evet, evet, tamam. Hadi bakalım. Evet, tamam. Doğru. Hadi bakalım. Emrin. Hadi bakalım. Evet.
Hazır, evet.
I also start to control group my Kulves. And what comes next is important. You do not want your Kulves to be right next to each other, especially for the first fight.
Hazır. Evet. Tamam, evet. Hadi bakalım. Tamamdır. Evet.
If you do that, then they take more splash damage from enemy Kulves, so it's best to have them spread out a little bit.
Emrin. Evet. Tamam, tamamdır. Hazır. Evet. Evet. Tamam. Hadi bakalım.
Also make sure that they aren't in vulnerable positions from to die from Cav flanks.
Hazır. Evet. Evet. Tamam. Evet. Tamamdır. Hazır. Emrin.
And you'll see me move a couple Jans around to make sure that
Tamam. Evet. Hadi bakalım. Evet.
they're in safe positions.
Evet, evet.
Hazır. Tamam. Evet. Tamamdır.
Emrin. Tamam. Evet.
Another mistake I see some Ottoman players doing is not sending villagers forward to the fight. You need them for walls and towers. Battlefield construction Janissaries won't cut it for you. I mean, if you do that, it's just you're going to lose map control instantly. So,
Hazır. Evet. Çiftçi.
bring up settlers to the fight.
Çiftçi.
Emrin.
After the first battle, your composition should be mostly Obus and Huss, with some Wominka and mortars as well, but not that many Janissaries and not that many Kulves.
Hazır. Tamam. Evet. Tamamdır. Hadi bak. Evet. Tamam.
Other than that, this has been my Ottoman boom, and I hope you've learned something. But for now, I'm just going to look at the post game, and you can see my res distribution, and that's all. I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.
Haydi bakalım. Evet, evet. Emrin. Tamam. Evet. Evet, tamamdır. Emrin. Haydi bakalım. Evet, evet. Tamamdır.
Evet. Hazır. Evet. Evet. Tamamdır.
Emrin. Evet. Hazır. Evet.
Evet. Haydi bakalım. Emrin. Hadi bakalım.
Evet. Hazır.
Selam. Oduncu.
Evet. Hazır.